Hello and welcome back. Now, a few weeks ago, we made some short videos on how to use the verb ending "는데요" to show the speaker's surprise. And there were quite a few comments and questions regarding the differences between "네요" and "는데요", because we can also use "네요" at the end of sentences to express the speaker's surprise. So in this video, we're going to look at the subtle differences between 네요 and 는데요, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a clear understanding of situations in which you would use either 네요 and 는데요. Okay, so let's first quickly go over how we add 네요 and 는데요 to verbs and adjectives. Firstly, adding 네요 is a lot simpler than 는데요 because regardless of whether it's a verb or an adjective, or whether the stem ends in 받침, a final consonant, or not, we always add 네요 to the stem. So 먹다 to eat becomes 먹네요. 가다 to go becomes 가네요. And 예쁘다 to be pretty becomes 예쁘네요. Now, 는데요 is a little different. For verbs, we just add 는데요 to all verb stems. So 먹다 becomes 먹는데요 and 가다 becomes 가는데요. However, for adjectives, we add either 니은데요 or 은데요, depending on whether the stem ends in 받침 or not. If the stem doesn't end in 받침, as in it ends in a vowel, we add 니은데요. So 예쁘다 becomes 예쁜데요, and 크다, meaning to be big, becomes 큰데요. But if the stem ends in a 받침, we add 은데요. So 작다 to be small becomes 작은데요, and 좋다 to be good becomes 좋은데요. Okay, so that's how we add these endings to verbs and adjectives. Let's now think about how we use these endings, 네요 and 는데요. First, we use 네요 to express our surprise after experiencing something. And this surprise could be because something was very good or very bad. And although there is an element of being surprised because something is different from how you expected it to be, the focus of the meaning is not on this difference in expectation. On the other hand, we use 는데요 to show our surprise when something is different from our expectation. And this is the major difference between 네요 and 는데요. We use 는데요 to show our surprise because something is different from our expectation. Okay, so that's how we use 네요 and 는데요. Let's now think about how we would use these endings in certain situations. Imagine that you are out shopping for a sofa. And after some time shopping, you come across a really pretty sofa. So you say to your mother, 이 소파 예쁘네요. This sofa is pretty. 이 소파 예쁘네요. And in this sentence, 네요 is used to express the speaker's surprise and also element of being impressed by how pretty the sofa is. However, if the speaker said 이 소파 예쁜데요, this sofa is pretty. 이 소파 예쁜데요, then the nuance of this sentence is that I didn't expect the sofa to be pretty, but it is pretty. And I want to express my surprise that this is different from my expectation. So there is this underlying difference between sentences that use 네요 and 는데요. Quite often when we use 네요 to express our surprise, particularly when that surprise is about something good, then we are expressed being impressed by that surprise. On the other hand, when we use 는데요, we are basically saying, this is different from what I expected it to be. So therefore, I am surprised. However, in this situation where you are trying to choose a sofa, whether you use one or the other, it doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously, you are conveying a slightly difference in meaning in that situation, but whether you use one or the other, you're not really making an error in language use and you're not hurting anyone's feelings. However, there are some situations where it is important that you use one or the other. Imagine that a work colleague had a baby and she wants you to come and see the baby. Now, you go and see the baby and say, 아기가 예쁘네요. The baby is pretty. 아기가 예쁘네요. Now, when you use 네요, you are expressing your surprise. but you are also showing how impressed you are by how pretty the baby is. And the mother would be happy to hear you say this. However, if you said 아기가 예쁜데요, 아기가 예쁜데요, you're basically implying that I didn't expect the baby to be pretty, but it is. How surprising. So the mother would not be happy to hear this, and that would possibly be the last time you would ever see that baby, and possibly the mother as well. So remember that we use 네요 to express being surprised, and when that surprise is about something good, we are telling the other person that we are impressed by that thing. On the other hand, when we use 는데요, we are basically saying that I am surprised because whatever that thing is different from what I expected it to be. So those are that's the major difference between 네요 and 는데요. Okay, so I hope you now have a much better understanding of some situations where it is important that you use either 네요 or 는데요.